What if you could have all of the benefits of Ozempic, lose all the weight you want to without hunger or cravings, but avoid the $1,000 a month price tag and have none of the nasty side effects? Well, if you keep watching this video, I'm going to share with you why Ozempic has been so effective, but then most importantly, 10 ways that you can mimic some of those reasons as to why it helps people and achieve all of that naturally. I didn't know about Ozempic when I first started to lose weight, but I've used all of these things to help me drop 40 pounds and now keep them off for the past 5 years. So this really does work, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. So we're gonna do science with Chelsea, but it's gonna be very, very simple. So don't click away, this is important to understand. Ozempic was designed to help people with diabetes lower their blood sugar, but it actually caused people to lose weight as well. And the reason for this is that it creates something or synthesizes something called GLP-1. And GLP-1 has a hormonal effect in one area of your body that then triggers something in another. And that's really just how hormones work. It's almost like the telephone, where you ring from one part of your body and then another part of your body picks up the line. For example, you have leptin, which is called the hunger hormone, produced in your white fat tissue that then causes you to have decreased hunger in your brain. That's how hormones work. They all work this way. They just call on one side, pick up on another. So Ozempic has this hormonal effect in 3 main areas of the body. Number 1, in the pancreas. GLP-1 has all of these little mechanisms that help to increase insulin sensitivity, which means that when you have all this blood sugar circulating around in your blood cells, your muscles are able to actually uptake that easier. They're like these little conductors that are saying like, yeah, you can come through now, that's fine to come through. Or they're saying like, no, we can't take you. There's no room, or you need to wait for someone else. So increased insulin sensitivity means that you can deal with your blood sugar better. Again, I said this was going to be simplified, but I want you to understand. That's going to help you to avoid these big blood sugar dips and spikes that you would normally experience without this effect. The second thing that happens is that it helps to slow down stomach emptying. And think about it this way. If you were to have a big Thanksgiving meal, no matter how much you stuff yourself in 12 hours, you're going to want to eat again. So in that 12-hour period, because your stomach is still emptying, you're not eating more calories. But let's say that got drawn out to 24 hours. Let's say that by the time you were hungry again, it had been a full 24 hours. That means that you would have had another 3 meals that you wouldn't have really had to eat, 3 meals worth of calories that you didn't consume because you simply weren't hungry. And that's a very exaggerated way of looking at it. But if we can slow down stomach emptying and you feel fuller for longer, it's going to reduce how many calories you eat. It's a behavioral change. Third and most important is that inside of your brain, a GLP-1 reduces your hunger and your cravings. And the effect of that is that you just eat less calories. So Ozempic is not helping you to change what happens with the calories in your body, because if you were to take it, but everything you did next stayed the same, it wouldn't work. What it does on a most basic level is it changes your hunger, therefore it changes your behavior. And that's why it's so effective, because it's your behavior that influences how many calories you eat. And then it's being in a calorie deficit, eating less calories than you need, which causes weight loss. So these 10 things that I'm going to show you are going to show you how to reduce hunger and cravings so that you can eat less calories without ever having to inject yourself. Number 1 is you want to eat vegetables for bulk. Why? Because if you eat more food, your stomach is going to take longer to empty. Think about how GLP-1 works. Vegetables are naturally low in calories, so when you bulk out your meals and you eat a lot of them, you're going to naturally feel less hungry, which is going to lead to you eating less calories. And the vegetables to eat are non-starchy. I recommend eating a pound of these a day. They work out to about 100 calories to 150 calories per pound. But because they're like 95% water, they fill up your stomach without really adding anything in terms of extra calories to your diet. Think of this like ordering a tiny camera from Amazon, and it comes in this huge box and there's all this foam in there that doesn't really help you, but it's there to protect the phone. It's a similar kind of thing with vegetables. We're wanting to bulk out and have a greater space taken up in your stomach, but it's not going to contribute to you eating more calories. It's actually going to contribute to you eating less. The second thing to do is to eat green vegetables because they contain something called thylakoids. This is like spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, anything that's dark green. And so thylakoids actually delay calories being absorbed until the end of your intestines. And what happens is that at that point, there is a signal, hormones again, that tells your brain, because there's undigested calories at the end of your intestine, that you should shut off hunger. You're going to have an appetite suppressant effect just from eating green vegetables. If that doesn't make you want to eat your broccoli, I don't know what will. Number 3 is to eat potatoes for satiety. And I talked about this in a recent video. Potatoes have the highest satiety index. I'm going to show you a satiety chart here. They are just the absolute queens of satiety, meaning that when you eat them, you shut off your hunger. I want to challenge you. You can end this video right now and go and try and eat 5 boiled potatoes. You will struggle. But 5 boiled potatoes is only between 500 and 600 calories, which is not a lot. By contrast, if you were to eat 34 Oreos, you'd be eating 1800 calories and you wouldn't even be full. If you want to mimic some of the benefits of Ozempic, eat more potatoes so that your hunger is drastically dropping. Number 4 is to eat bigger portions of food. I consistently see this with people as one of the biggest mistakes that they make is that they just don't understand what is an adequate amount of food to feel full and satisfied and actually shut off hunger. We are consistently telling our clients inside of my coaching program to eat more food for this reason. And so I'm going to show you how I design a plate like this. What I like to do is have about a pound of vegetables, at least 1 to 2 potatoes, sometimes even more. If I'm hungry, I will eat more. And then I'm going to have a little handful of tofu in there. And so I use this same format for all of the meals that I make. I add a little bit of fat in there as well, like a quarter of an avocado or a couple of tablespoons of a tahini dressing or some kind of hummus. If I don't do tofu, then I'll do something like chickpeas or lentils or something that's a little bit more higher in protein. And I'm going to explain a bit more about my thought process around this too and how this works later on in the video. But this bigger portion of food is going to mean that your stomach takes longer to empty. It's going to mean that you shut off some of those hunger receptors in your brain because you objectively ate a bigger meal. Don't be scared of big meals that are between 500 and 600 calories. Be scared of eating a tiny portion that then leads you to overeating later on. Number 5 is to eat a fiber-filled breakfast in the morning. You've probably heard this phrase of breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and then dinner like a pauper. Not only are calories eaten in the morning moved to different areas of your body, so absorbed differently and used differently, which I'm not even going to get into, but it's fascinating. Not only that, the main reason to eat a filling breakfast and a fiber-filled breakfast is so that you can eat enough throughout your day to minimize hunger later on. If you eat breakfast daily, regardless of whether you're hungry or not, I don't care if you're not hungry in the morning. If you eat breakfast daily, your consistency is going to skyrocket because you have more food in your stomach throughout the day. Not only that, make your breakfast fiber-filled because you're going to have some of those same effects that you do with the thylakoids. And I'll explain that in a moment. What I like to do for breakfast is the same thing every day. I do oats, I do flax for the fiber in there as well, I do soy milk, and I do berries for bulking that out, and I have a decent portion of food. None of this quarter of a cup of oats business. Do a full cup, all right? Thank me later. Number 6 is to eat more fiber in general because fiber helps you to have less of the calories along your intestine absorbed. Fiber is the undigestible parts of plants. When you have calories and you eat food, let's say you got a donut that you've just eaten in your stomach, the only calories that your body is actually going to absorb from your intestine where it's traveling through is the calories that come in direct contact with the donut. And then what happens is there's these little kind of fingery things, villi, and what they do is they pick out the calories and then they move that into your bloodstream. So if they can't touch them, if they're like, I can't touch the calories because there's a bit of fiber there blocking it, then you can't actually absorb those calories, which is pretty cool because you're going to absorb less calories when you have more fiber. But that's not even what we're getting at. What's going to happen is that because there's some blocks between the calories and the intestinal wall due to fiber, is that it's going to take longer through your intestine for those calories to be absorbed. That's going to slow a blood sugar spike. It's going to increase insulin sensitivity because you don't have as many calories in your blood knocking on the door of the muscles like, let me in, let me in. It's going to slow down stomach emptying or intestinal emptying. And then because you're going to have undigested calories reach your lower intestine, reach your ileal, you're going to have the hunger suppressant triggered in your brain just because you're eating more fiber. Like, mind-blowing. This is the effects of Ozempic without Ozempic. If this is not exciting, I don't know what is. So high fiber foods are really not donuts. I gave the donut example. Donuts is just all going to be absorbed because there's no fiber in there. But if you're eating broccoli, if you're eating whole grains, if you're eating legumes, which is super high in fiber, if you're eating nuts and seeds, then you're gonna have some of these effects, which is why I make a fiber-filled breakfast. And then every other meal, I'm also eating a ton of fiber. Number 7 is to just eat slower. So this works on a kind of like a psychological level where because it takes more time, you feel more full, you think you're more full, you think you've eaten more, but then also on a physiological level where if you chew more, you actually create more saliva, which means that you have more bulk in your stomach, which means that it's going to be emptying slower, which means that you're going to feel fuller for longer. Crazy. So just eat slower. Number 8, snack on fruit. Because fruit has got a ton of water, which has no calories. It's got fiber, which has no calories, or none absorbed at least. And it's super satisfying because it's naturally sweet. And we do tend to crave sweet things. So if you can snack on fruit when you're hungry, you're going to eat less calories overall, which is the behavioral effect that we want to have and why Ozempic is so powerful. Number 9 is to eat 3 meals a day plus snacks. I have not seen intermittent fasting be successful for the majority of people simply because on a long-term basis, it doesn't help with the satiety and the fullness and the hunger reduction. In fact, it contributes to the opposite. So if you want to use the benefits of Ozempic and why it's working for everyone, then work with your hunger and lower your hunger rather than fighting against it. What I've consistently seen is that 3 meals a day plus some snacks in there is the most effective way to overall reduce your cravings and your hunger enough to increase your consistency to lower your overall calories. And I know there's going to be people in the comments saying, I'm not hungry in the mornings, I like to intermittent fast. I'm just telling you the data here in terms of what actually works. And for myself, I've just gotten over myself where I don't tell myself a story that I'm not hungry in the morning because it's natural. Hunger is going to be less in the morning. Hunger peaks at night and it troughs in the morning. It's still better objectively to eat more calories in the morning. It's not worth fighting this. You're making your life harder than it needs to be. Number 10 is to massively reduce your hunger when you're in environments that you're going to be triggered to eat more high calorie foods. Because remember, the real effect and the real reason that Ozempic works is that it changes people's behavior. They're eating less calories because they've got less cravings and they're less hungry. So if you're in an environment where you are going to be tempted to eat more, then eat more low-calorie foods, stuff yourself with potatoes, use that satiety of potatoes and of bulk, use the fiber so that when you get to the party and people are offering you chips, you don't feel like you want to eat them. Like, this is the cheat code to life. Just gorge yourself on potatoes and broccoli before you go to the events where you would normally gorge yourself on chocolate. Natural Ozempic right there. I bring food with me when I leave the house. I always have food with me when I'm going to parties or going to events where other people are going to be eating like tons of processed food. I always have an alternative for myself when there's tons of like high processed foods going around. Those environments, like if I'm going to go out for dinner, I'm going to eat more during the day because I know that's going to help my behavior that night. Rather than what most people do, which is they'll eat less because they're kind of saving up their calories for what they're going to do later, which doesn't help you on a behavioral level of wanting to naturally eat less calories. And it doesn't matter how much you eat from low calorie foods like potatoes and broccoli and tofu, even if you were to absolutely eat so much of those foods, you can still only naturally cap at say like 2,000 or maybe even 2,500 calories because they are so satisfying. You're gonna feel sick before you eat too many calories. When I say too many, all I'm comparing that to is what the alternative would be if those are processed foods. You can eat upwards of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, even up to 10,000 or maybe more calories from processed foods because they're simply higher calories for smaller amount of bulk. You don't have that switch off in your brain because there's nothing to trigger that in your stomach until you've eaten just more calories than you can absolutely ever need, which is why people gain weight. So putting this all together and what I actually do and how I might design my days to have all of these benefits is I start with breakfast. It's a non-negotiable for me. I put my flax, I put my oats, I've got my soy milk, and I have that ready to go every single day. Lunch, non-negotiable, it has the veggies, it has the green veggies for the thylakoids. I put in a ton of fiber in there because I'm eating whole foods like potatoes. My potatoes are always in there for my satiety. I got my tofu in there for my protein, and it's a big chunk of food. And I eat it slow. If I want a snack, I snack on some fruit. I like pears, oranges, peaches if they're in season. My favorite and hands down best fruit option would be berries. They're just hard to get where I live, but they're super low in calories and they're absolutely delicious. Dinner, a non-negotiable for me, is I'm looking to make it high fiber. Add in my green vegetables, add in a ton of other veggies as well, add in legumes like chickpeas, lentils. I normally make up some kind of bolognese for pasta, or I do some kind of chili which has a ton of beans in it, tons of vegetables, and then my whole grains as well. And then whenever I go out, I've got my food with me, and I do not go into tempting environments where I could overeat on calories hungry. I avoid hunger at all costs because it is the #1 predictor of how many calories you eat. If there's one thing that we've learned from Ozempic, it's that weight loss is not mystical. It's truly just eating less. And when we're less hungry, it changes our behavior. I think there's massive opportunity to learn from what's working and actually just ask, how do I apply that with naturally occurring foods that I have easy access to? So what I would love to hear from you in the comments is which of these 10 things you're going to take away and apply today with this goal of reducing your hunger. And the exciting part is that you can try this and then you can see how it changes your behavior. And if you need to add another potato to your meals, if you want to add some more green veggies, if you want to add some more lentils, you can. And it's not going to cost you $1,000 a month. That's it from me. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let me know, like I said, in the comments, which of these things you're going to try, which has been most helpful. And if you like more of the behavioral change side of things, then I go very deep on my podcast, which I'm going to put in the description, and you can find out more about that there. Shout out to Miss Pinkney45 who said this about the podcast. I just discovered your podcast and I plan to go back and watch them all and apply what I've learned. With your help, I've lost approximately 20 pounds, but I can do better. Because of your podcast, I now know exactly what I should do. I learned that each meal should have veggies, enough starch, and I've been too stingy, like we all have. Don't fight against hunger. Thank you so much. You're awesome. So go do that, and I'll see you again. All right, bye.